who's present with you, bringing you that ground report, is actually with us right now. Let's go over to him to understand more. Herman, we saw the ground report. Our audiences just watched protesters present as we speak outside Sanjay Raut's house. Is an arrest impending? What are your sources telling you?
Well, yes, we are very much now present outside his residence. Here towards my right, you can see you have Shiv Sena supporters that are present and raising slogans. Besides that, you can see also constables from the Mumbai police who have also been posted here to ensure there is no law and order situation. Now, it is almost close to 3 hours, I would say, that he is being questioned by the Enforcement Directorate. And now what we are given to understand is his family members who are very much present inside. As far as the arrest is concerned, that is a strong possibility is what we are given to understand. But before that, he would be detained as per the process and then being questioned. It will also depend on whether he has been cooperating with the agency or not, because so far he has tweeted and stated that the Shiv Sena as well as him will continue to fight against the Enforcement Directorate.
All right, and Herman, if you could bring our audiences more updates also on the Shiv Sena itself. Are we likely to hear a word from Uddhav Thackeray today?
Well, yes, it is a strong possibility that he could be definitely addressing the address a press conference. And what could he say? Well, just that what they have been maintaining for quite some time, which is that the BJP has been using the ED, that is the allegation at least, to stifle the voice of the opposition, particularly leaders from the opposition who in fact are critical of the government's policies and do speak out openly. Now, just to show you even this path that leads towards his residence, here you have the vehicles have been stopped, so people whoever live in and around the area have been asked to park their vehicles and then they have to walk out here. As far as the investigation bit is concerned, it is a definite strong possibility of him being detained and then subsequently being arrested, although there is no confirmation at this point in time.
All right, Herman, stay with us. Thank you for bringing us those developments. For our audience, we actually have two guests with us this morning on the show so that we can have a deeper discussion on the developments carrying on in Maharashtra as we speak. We have S. Balakrishnan, a senior journalist, and Raja Lakshmi Joshi, a political analyst. Good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 18. Sir, I'd like to come over to you first, Mr. Balakrishnan, and ask you a question here. What context should our audiences look at these developments in, sir? You know, since we've woken up, since our audiences have woken up, early morning we've received this news that the Enforcement Directorate has taken action on Sanjay Raut. In some ways, a lot of us who watched the news knew that this was coming. He'd skipped 2 summons. But do you think the Shiv Sena saw this coming, sir?
See, the Shiv Sena definitely saw this coming because a few months back, if you recall, the ED was almost on the verge of arresting Sanjay Raut.
Right.
But Sharad Pawar, he took a special flight to Delhi and he met the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and requested him to get the ED on the back of Sanjay Raut. Because Sanjay Raut is a huge asset, more than for the Shiv Sena, but for the NCP and more specifically for Sharad Pawar. There are allegations that he's a Trojan horse of Sharad Pawar in the Shiv Sena. But anyway, what is interesting, Sharad Pawar did not meet Prime Minister Modi to save his own party cabinet ministers, Anil Deshmukh and Nawab Malik. But for Sanjay Raut, he went way out of the way to help him. And today, the fact that, like what you rightly mentioned, on a couple of occasions, Sanjay had avoided the summons from the ED. And the ED has got a mass of evidence about this Patrawala Chowk. It is actually an open and shut case. So it is only a question of time before he is arrested, because custodial interrogation will be needed to dig out more details. Because it is not only him who is involved. There are so many other people who are involved in this massive deal, in which kind of lower middle class people have been dupe of hundreds of crores of rupees in this Patrawala Chowk scheme. And the Shiv Sena definitely saw this coming, and they are virtually given up. Now the kind of the protest which you see, they are only for optics, nothing beyond that, because they know the extent of involvement of Sanjay Raut, and then they'll just make some noises, and that's about all.
Okay.
But
Mr. Balakrishnan, I'm so sorry to cut you off. I believe there are some developments taking place right now, and we're going to have to move very quickly to that. These are developments taking place outside Raut's residence. Sena workers, as you can see on your screens right now, protesting. My colleague Herman Gomes present on the ground. Let's go over to him right now. Herman, a development from you, please.
Well, yes, Toya, there's a bit of, I couldn't hear your question exactly, but as you can see here in front of me, you have several Shiv Sena supporters, particularly supporters of Mr. Sanjay Raut, who have gathered here. They are sitting here on the floor, raising slogans against not just the BJP, but also against the Enforcement Directorate, stating that they are under the pressure of the Bharatiya Janata Party to target opposition leaders, particularly Mr. Sanjay Raut, who's been critical of its policies. As you can see, they are here raising slogans. They are standing there with a flag and slogans being raised against not just the Enforcement Directorate, but also against the BJP.
Herman, if I can understand from you here, we right now spoke to a senior journalist who's present with us. He's a guest on the show. You know, he was alleging that a lot of these protests are simply for optics. The Shiv Sena has given up. Is that a sentiment that you think is present on the ground?
Toya, could you repeat your question?
Yes, Herman, in your interactions with workers who are present on the ground right now, do these workers seem passionate and invested? Because we had a senior journalist with us right now on the show. Sir was saying that the Shiv Sena is only doing these protests for optics.
I couldn't get your question, but I can tell you that these are supporters of Sanjay Raut, and they are also raising slogans in support of Aditya Thackeray as well as Uddhav Thackeray, the former Chief Minister of Maharashtra. As you can see, these slogans being raised across against the BJP and the ED, alleging that the ED is working at the behest of the BJP. Now, these are, although it's a small protest, it is very symbolic because we do know currently there are two factions within the Shiv Sena, but this is the one faction that is in support of Sanjay Raut.
All right, Herman, thank you so much for bringing us those developments. Let's go over now back to the two guests that we have on the show. S. Balakrishnan, a senior journalist, he was with us right now. Raja Lakshmi Joshi, a political analyst, also with us right now. Ms. Joshi, I'm going to come over to you for the next question. I'd like to understand from you, Ms. Joshi, how do we take a look at this from the political angle? Do we look at this as essentially the fall of the Shiv Sena, as perhaps the BJP would like us to watch, or is there something else possibly in the offing for the party?
A very good morning. And you have very rightly put it across that, this is something that, Mr. Sanjay Raut and the entire Uddhav faction of the Shiv Sena would like us to believe that this is something like a political vendetta. When actually, all the facts are there open, and it's like an open and shut case, as Mr. Bala was saying. And, the fact that Mr. Raut was avoiding the ED interrogation, that he did not even go when he was summoned, and he was making all kinds of excuses, and one of his own associates has gone against him. All of that is very clear that definitely things are not looking good for Mr. Sanjay Raut, and neither for anybody in the Uddhav, I'm saying Uddhav faction, because they had this chance of actually going back to with the Eknath Shinde faction also, but then they chose to have this arrogant stand. And now all that they're trying to say is, like Mr. Sanjay Raut is saying, that I will die, but I will not leave this Shiv Sena, as if this action is being taken because he has stood by Uddhav Thackeray. When in reality, the fact is that he has almost single-handedly, I'm saying almost because there were a few more such advisors who have helped take down the Shiv Sena. But then Mr. Sanjay Raut is very largely responsible for whatever has happened in the Shiv Sena. So, and now very conveniently, he is saying that he is being targeted for standing with Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, when very strong evidences are there against him, and he has absolutely no escape. And he has known that for a long time now. He, his wife, his family, his close associates, all of them have been involved in huge scams, and the ED has rightly pointed out all of them, and they have linked the Patra Chaul scam with his plot at Alibag, and all of that is so. It is definitely something that he is bound to be arrested, and he is definitely